The night was quiet when June heard the crash. It sounded like thunder, but the sky was clear with stars shining brightly. He put down his tools and walked to the window of his small workshop. A bright light flashed in the woods behind his house. Smoke rose above the trees. June grabbed his flashlight and jacket, then headed outside. June lived alone on the edge of the city. He liked it that way. People asked too many questions about his inventions. In his workshop, he could work in peace, creating things that might help people someday. The forest floor was wet from yesterday's rain. His boots made soft sounds as he walked toward the smoke. The light from his flashlight bounced between trees. "What in the world?" he whispered when he found the source. A small craft, no bigger than his truck, had cut through the trees and dug into the ground. It was not from Earth. The metal looked strange, almost alive, with patterns that seemed to move when he blinked. June touched the side of the craft. It was warm but not hot. A soft humming sound came from inside. He moved his hand along the smooth surface until he found what looked like a door. As if sensing his touch, the door slid open with a quiet hiss. June stepped back, his heart beating fast. He pointed his flashlight inside. "Hello," he called. "Anyone hurt?" The beam of light found something in the small space. Someone. She looked almost human but wasn't. Her skin had a silver tone that reflected his light. Her face was delicate, with large closed eyes. She was small, perhaps 5 feet tall, wearing what looked like a suit made of the same strange material as the ship. Blood, or something like blood but with a blue tint, ran from a cut on her head. More blue stained the front of her suit. June didn't think twice. Hurt was hurt, human or not. "I'm going to help you," he said, though he wasn't sure she could hear him. "Don't be afraid." He reached in and carefully lifted her. She was lighter than he expected. The strange suit felt warm against his hands, almost like skin. Her chest moved slightly. She was alive. June carried her back to his workshop. His mind raced with questions. What was she? Where did she come from? Were others looking for her? He placed her on the small bed in the corner where he sometimes slept during long work sessions. Under the bright lights of his workshop, he could see her better. Her face was peaceful despite the blue blood. Her hair was white like snow, short and fine like silk. And there was something else, small metal parts embedded in her skin at her temples and wrists, glowing faintly with a blue light that matched her blood. One of these parts at her wrist was damaged, sparking slightly. "I can fix that," Jum said softly. He was good with machines. Perhaps these were like machines too. He cleaned her head wound first, using his first aid kit. The cut wasn't deep. Then he studied the damaged part at her wrist. It was complex, but not beyond his skills. Jum gathered his smallest tools. He worked carefully, repairing the connections in the small device. As an engineer, he understood how things fit together. This was different, but the principles seemed similar. When he finished, the sparking stopped. The blue light grew stronger and steadier. The other metal parts on her body began to glow brighter too. Suddenly, her chest rose with a deep breath. Her fingers twitched. June stepped back, waiting. He didn't know what would happen next. Her eyes opened. They were large and completely purple, with no whites like human eyes. They focused on him immediately. "You're safe," Jum said, holding up his empty hands to show he meant no harm. "I only wanted to help." The alien girl sat up slowly, looking at him with those strange purple eyes. Then she looked at her wrist where he had fixed the device. Her mouth opened, and she spoke in a voice that sounded like music. "You have bonded with me," she said in perfect, clear words. "I am now yours." June stepped back, confused by her words. "What do you mean, yours?" The alien girl moved her fingers over the device he had fixed on her wrist. The blue light pulsed under her touch. "I am Nara," she said. Her voice had a musical quality, like notes played on a string instrument. "You healed my life link. This creates a bond among my people." June shook his head. I just fixed something that was broken. You were hurt. Nera tilted her head, studying him with those large purple eyes. Your species does not understand. The lifelink is not just a device. It is part of me. She touched her chest. When you touched it, your energy became part of my pattern. She stood up from the bed, moving with a grace that seemed too smooth to be human. Though small, she moved with confidence. Her silver skin caught the light as she walked around his workshop, looking at his tools and inventions. What are you? June asked. Where did you come from? Nera turned to him. My people are called the Lumen. We come from a system you would call. She made a sound June couldn't hope to repeat. It is far from here, very far. Why are you on Earth? June asked, still keeping his distance. Nera's face changed. Fear showed in her eyes. I am running. They want my work. They want to use it to hurt others. Who does? The leaders, she said. I am a scientist. I study how to heal bodies, make them stronger, live longer. She touched the devices at her temples. I created these to help my people, but the leaders saw weapons instead of healing. June nodded slowly. He understood. People often used good things for bad purposes. So you escaped? Yes, but my ship was damaged. I thought I would die. Nora looked at him with intensity. But you found me. You fixed my lifelink. Now I live because of you. June rubbed the back of his neck. Anyone would have helped. Nera shook her head. No, many would fear what they do not know. You did not fear. You helped. She stepped closer to him. In my culture, this creates a sacred bond. What kind of bond? June asked, feeling uneasy. I am bound to protect you now, to serve your needs, to share my knowledge with you. She said these things as if they were simple facts. That's not necessary, June said quickly. On Earth, we help each other without expecting anything in return. Nera looked confused. This is strange to me. But there is more you should know. She pointed to her head. My people speak with thoughts. We share our minds with those we trust. She reached out her hand, palm up. May I show you? June hesitated. This was all happening too fast. Just an hour ago, he was alone in his workshop. Now an alien was offering to share her thoughts with him. I won't hurt you, Nera said softly. I cannot hurt the one who saved me. Slowly, June placed his hand in hers. Her skin was warm and smooth, like touching silk heated by the sun. The moment their hands met, June felt a strange sensation in his head. It wasn't painful, just odd, like the feeling when your foot falls asleep, but in his mind. Suddenly, he saw images, stars he didn't recognize, cities built of crystal and light, people like Nara with silver skin and purple eyes, moving through buildings that seemed to grow from the ground. Then darker images, men in black armor, labs with people strapped to tables. Fear, pain, escape. June pulled his hand away, gasping. I saw your world. Nera nodded. Now you understand. I cannot go back. The leaders will find me, use my work to hurt others. She looked around the workshop. I must stay here, with you, the one who saved me. But I can't just keep an alien in my house, June said. There are people who would want to know about you. Scientists, governments. Would they treat me better than my own leaders? Nara asked simply. June had no answer for that. I only want to continue my work, to heal, not harm, Nara said. And now, to protect you. You are my bondmate now. I'm not your anything, June said firmly. I just helped you. Nara smiled for the first time. To you, it was just help. To me, it was everything. 3 days passed. June tried to keep working on his projects, but it was hard with Nera watching his every move. Don't you need to sleep? He asked when he found her standing by his bed in the middle of the night. My people need less rest than humans, she said. I was making sure you were safe. June sighed. There's nothing dangerous here. This is my home. Danger can come from anywhere, Nora said. She touched one of the devices at her temple. I can sense things you cannot. June had given her some of his clothes to wear. His old blue shirt hung loose on her small frame, and she had to roll up the legs of his pants many times. Even dressed like this, she looked nothing like a human. Her silver skin and purple eyes would draw attention immediately if anyone saw her. You can't follow me everywhere, Jun said as he made breakfast. People would ask questions. Nara sat across from him at his small table. Questions are dangerous. If your leaders learn of me, they might be like mine. Jun didn't argue. She might be right. That afternoon, Jun worked on fixing an old radio in his workshop. Nara watched with interest. This is simple technology, she said. I could improve it. No thanks, Jun said quickly. I like fixing things myself. Nara tilted her head. You don't trust my help. It's not that. Jun was cut off by a loud noise outside. Nara moved faster than Jun thought possible. In a second, she was at the window. 3 men, she said. They carry tools for breaking in. Jun joined her at the window. 3 rough-looking men were approaching his workshop. He recognized one of them, the local thief who had been caught stealing from other homes in the area. They want to take your things, Nara said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes had changed. The purple seemed to glow brighter. I'll call the police, Jun said, reaching for his phone. No time, Nara replied. Before Jun could stop her, she was out the door. Jun ran after her but stopped at the doorway. What he saw made his mouth drop open. Nara moved like water, fast and smooth. The first man tried to grab her, but she slipped around him. She touched something on her wrist, the device Jun had fixed, and a blue light glowed around her hand. She touched the man's arm. He froze in place, unable to move. The second man pulled out a knife. Nara didn't even seem worried. She ducked under his swing and pressed her glowing hand to his chest. He fell to the ground, awake but completely still. The third man turned to run, but Nara was faster. She moved in front of him and placed her hand on his shoulder. Like the others, he froze in place. What did you do to them? Jun asked, walking cautiously toward the scene. Temporary neural block, Nara explained. They will be unable to move for 1 hour. They are not harmed. Jun looked at the 3 men. Their eyes moved in fear, but their bodies were completely still. You could have been hurt, Nara said, turning to Jun. I am your protector now. This is my purpose. Jun ran his hand through his hair. This is crazy. I can't have you freezing people who come near my house. They meant you harm, Nara said simply. I prevented that harm. She was right, but that wasn't the point. How could he explain that to her? Before he could try, Nara stiffened. She looked up at the sky. What is it? Jun asked. Energy signature, she said. Her voice had a new edge to it. From my world. Someone is scanning this area. Your people. They found you. Nara's face showed fear for the first time since she had awakened. Yes, they have come for me. She looked at Jun with her large purple eyes. And now they will come for you too. Because you helped me. Jun looked at the 3 frozen men, then back at Nara. His simple act of kindness had become much more complicated than he ever could have imagined. What do we do? He asked. We must hide, Nara said, or we must fight. But we must do it together. Together, Jun repeated, feeling like his normal life was slipping away with each passing minute. Jun and Nara didn't have much time to prepare. They gathered some food and water, Jun's tools, and a few of Nara's devices from her crashed ship. Jun drove his old truck deep into the forest, away from his home. Will they find us here? Jun asked as they sat in the truck, hidden among thick trees. Nara looked at the night sky through the windshield. They will search for my energy signature. The trees will hide us for a while, but not forever. Jun gripped the steering wheel. Yesterday, His biggest worry had been fixing a client's broken radio. Now he was hiding from alien hunters. "Tell me about who is looking for you," he said. Nara's fingers moved over the device on her wrist. A small hologram appeared above it, showing a tall, strong figure with silver skin like hers, but with harsh features. "His name is Da," she said. "He works for the leaders. He hunts those who try to escape." "Is he like you?" "With the same abilities." "His abilities are for hurting, not healing," Nara said. "He has killed many of my people who spoke against the leaders." The hologram changed, showing a weapon that looked like a long, thin rod. "This is his neural disruptor," Nara explained. "It causes great pain. It can also kill." June swallowed hard. "And he's here, on Earth." A bright light suddenly flashed in the sky above them. Something large moved through the clouds, then hovered over the area where June's house was. "Yes," Nara whispered. "He is here." They watched as the ship, much larger than Nara's small craft, descended from the sky. It landed somewhere near June's workshop. "We should leave," June said, starting the truck's engine. Nara put her hand on his arm. "No, the sound will draw them to us. We must be still." They sat in silence for hours. The forest was dark and quiet around them. Occasionally, they saw flashes of light in the distance, near June's home. "They are searching your dwelling," Nara said, "looking for clues." Near morning, June saw movement through the trees. A figure walked in the forest, sweeping some kind of device back and forth. The figure was tall, at least 7 feet, with broad shoulders. Even from a distance, June could see the silver skin reflecting the early morning light. "Da," Nara whispered, her voice tight with fear. The tall figure stopped, looking at his device. He turned slowly, facing the direction of their truck. "He has found us," Nara said. She reached for the door handle. "I will lead him away from you." June grabbed her arm. "No, we stay together." Day moved closer, his long legs covering ground quickly. Now June could see his face, angular and cold, with eyes that were not purple like Nara's, but a burning orange. "He will kill you," Nara said urgently. "You are just a human to him." "And you're just a human to me," June replied, reaching into his bag of tools. "But I still helped you." Day was close now, only 50 feet from their hiding spot. In his hand was the rod-like weapon Nara had shown in the hologram. "Fugitive Nara," he called out in a deep, rumbling voice. "You have violated Directive 7. Surrender now." June's hands worked quickly, connecting wires to a small device he had brought from his workshop. "What are you doing?" Nara asked. "His weapon is electronic, right?" June whispered. "I'm good with electronics." Day was at their truck now. He reached for the door. "Human," he said, looking at June with those orange eyes. "Move away from the fugitive." June didn't move. Instead, he pressed a button on his homemade device. A high-pitched sound filled the air. Day's weapon sparked in his hand. He dropped it, hissing in pain. "Run," June yelled. He threw open the door, pushing Nara ahead of him. They ran through the forest, hearing Day's angry shouts behind them. June's device had disrupted the alien's weapon, but it wouldn't last long. "Your technology should not affect ours," Nara said as they ran. "Sometimes simple is better," June replied between heavy breaths. They'd reached a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. June had found it years ago while hiking. "We'll be safe here for a while," he said as they entered the damp cave. Nara looked at him with new respect in her purple eyes. "You faced Da without fear." June sat down, trying to catch his breath. "I was terrified, but I wasn't going to let him take you." "Why?" Nara asked. "Why protect me? I have only caused you trouble." June didn't have a simple answer. "Because it's the right thing to do." June and Nara stayed in the cave through the day. When night fell, June knew they needed a better plan. "We can't hide in forests forever," he said. "We need help." Nara looked up from examining her wrist device. Who would help an alien and a human who hides her? June thought for a moment. My sister, Hannah. She lives in the city. She might help us. Can you trust her? Nara asked. I think so. We don't talk much, but she's family. They left the cave under cover of darkness. June led them through back roads, avoiding main highways where Dai might be looking for them. By morning, they reached the outskirts of the city. Hannah lived in a tall building near the center of town. June called her from a payphone. June, it's been months. Where are you? Hannah's voice sounded surprised. I need your help, June said. It's an emergency. Can I come to your apartment? And I'm not alone. There was a pause. Is this about the lights in the sky near your house? June froze. How did she know about that? Just come to the back entrance, Hannah said before he could answer. I'll let you in. 30 minutes later, June and Nara stood at Hannah's door. June had given Nara a hat and a face mask, saying she had a skin condition if anyone asked. Hannah opened the door. She looked like June, with the same dark eyes, but her face was harder, more serious. She wore a black suit that looked official. Her eyes widened when she saw Nara. Without a word, she pulled them both inside and locked the door. You brought one of them here, Hannah said. It wasn't a question. You know, June asked, shocked. Hannah moved to her computer and typed something quickly. I work for SETIP Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, Protection Division. The government has known about visitors for decades. June couldn't believe what he was hearing. His own sister was part of a secret organization that dealt with aliens. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. It's classified, Hannah said simply. She looked at Nara. What's your species designation? I am Lumen, Nara said. Hannah nodded. We've had contact with your kind before. 3 refugees in the last decade. There are more of my people here? Nara asked, hope in her voice. Yes, we maintain a safe zone for non-hostile visitors. Hannah turned back to June. But now there's a problem. A Hunter-class ship entered our atmosphere 2 days ago. It's looking for something. She nodded to Nara. For her, I'm guessing. His name is Da, June said. He wants to take Nara back. She's a scientist, Hannah said. Again, not a question. Her people have been taking their scientists back forcefully for years. The government has a policy of non-intervention. What does that mean? June asked. It means they might give her back to keep peace, Hannah replied coldly. No. June stepped between Hannah and Nara. They'll use her research to make weapons. They'll hurt her. Hannah looked at her brother with new interest. You care about her. I helped her. Now I'm going to protect her. Hannah sighed. The committee will meet tomorrow to decide what to do. Until then, you can stay here. That night, Hannah showed them to a small room with 2 beds. June was too wound up to sleep. Nara sat beside him on one bed. Your sister works with people like me, she said softly. This changes things. How? There are others here. Others who escaped. I am not alone. She looked at June with her large purple eyes. But I still need you. June nodded. I'm not going anywhere. In the morning, Hannah took them to a large underground facility. They rode an elevator deep beneath the city. This is where we monitor all extraterrestrial activity on Earth, she explained. The doors opened to reveal a massive room filled with computers and strange equipment. People in uniforms worked at stations, but what shocked June most were the others, beings that were clearly not human. Some looked almost like Nara, with silver skin. Others were completely different, with features June couldn't have imagined. An older man with a kind face approached them. His silver hair was neatly combed, and he wore a simple gray suit. I am Gil, he said, offering his hand to June. I am the elder of our little community. Hannah tells me you have helped one of our distant cousins. June shook the man's hand. You look human. Gil smiled. Appearances can be adapted. We who stay must blend in. He turned to Nera. Welcome, child of Lumen. You are safe here. For now. The meeting room was large and cold. 12 people sat around a long table. Some wore military uniforms, others wore suits. June sat next to Nera, feeling out of place in his dirty workshop clothes. Hannah stood at the front of the room, showing pictures of Day's ship on a large screen. The hunter has been searching the forests near my brother's home, she said. He has not yet detected our facility, but it's only a matter of time. A stern woman with gray hair spoke up. The treaty is clear. We do not interfere in the internal affairs of other species. If they want their scientists back, we should comply. June couldn't stay quiet. She's not a thing to give back. She's a person who escaped because they want to use her work to hurt others. The woman looked at June with cold eyes. Young man, you don't understand the bigger picture. One alien scientist is not worth risking relations with an advanced civilization. Gil, who sat at the end of the table, raised his hand. If I may speak, his voice was calm but firm. Nera's research has value beyond what you know. The Lumen healing technology could benefit all species, including humans. The committee members looked at each other. A man in a military uniform leaned forward. What kind of benefits? Nera stood up. Her voice was steady despite her fear. My work allows cells to regenerate at incredible speeds. Wounds heal in minutes. Diseases can be fought with the body's own strengthened systems. Or it could create super soldiers who can't be killed, said the stern woman. That is what my leaders want, Nora agreed. But in the right hands, it could save countless lives. The debate went on for hours. June watched as Nera explained her research, showing holographic images from her wrist device. Some committee members seemed impressed, others suspicious. Finally, the stern woman called for a vote. All in favor of returning the alien scientist to her people. 7 hands raised. June's heart sank. All opposed. 5 hands, including Gil's and Hannah's. Not enough. The decision is made, the woman said. We will arrange a meeting with the hunter and return the scientist. June stood up, angry now. This is wrong. You're sending her back to be a prisoner. Maybe worse. The woman ignored him. Security, please escort Mr. Kim and the alien to the holding area until arrangements can be made. 2 guards stepped forward. June felt helpless as they were led from the room. In the small holding room, Nera sat quietly on a bench. June paced back and forth. There has to be something we can do, he said. A soft knock came at the door. It opened to reveal Gil and 2 others. A Lumen woman with silver skin like Nera's, and a being that looked almost human except for eyes that were completely black. We don't have much time, Jill said. The committee has made their decision, but not all of us agree. The Lumen woman stepped forward. I am Mina. I escaped the leaders 5 Earth years ago. Your research continued my work. Nera's eyes widened. Teacher Mina, I thought you were dead. Mina smiled sadly. That is what they told everyone. But I am here, and I have been continuing our work in secret. The being with black eyes spoke next. I am Ta. My people are allies of the Lumen who oppose the leaders. We have a plan. Gil closed the door and lowered his voice. If your research became public knowledge across multiple worlds, it would be too valuable to be controlled by the Lumen leaders. A broadcast, Ta said, to all nearby systems. Show them what your healing technology can do, how it should be used. But how? Nara asked. We have no transmitter powerful enough. June remembered something. Your ship, the one that crashed. Could parts of it be used to build a transmitter? Nara thought for a moment. Yes, the communication array is likely still intact. It was designed to withstand crashes. I have some of your equipment, Mina said to Nara. Things I brought with me when I escaped. Together, we might build something that could work. June felt hope return. I can help too. I'm good with machines, even alien ones. Nera looked at him, her purple eyes shining. This is dangerous. If the leaders discover what we're doing, they will not hesitate to destroy everyone involved. I know, Jun said, but it's the right thing to do. Nera reached out and took his hand. Her touch was warm. You humans surprise me. You have such short lives, yet you risk them for what you believe is right. Jill smiled at them. That is the human factor that the leaders do not understand. Sometimes the simplest species have the strongest hearts. Tom moved to the door. We must hurry. The meeting with Dai is set for tomorrow morning. One night, Jun said, looking at Nera. We have one night to change everything. Night fell over the city as Jun, Nara, and their small group of allies worked in a hidden room deep in the underground facility. Ta had managed to retrieve parts from Nera's crashed ship. Mina brought her own equipment. Jun added his technical knowledge. Connect these two circuits, Nera instructed Jun, pointing to parts of the makeshift transmitter they were building. Her fingers moved quickly, adjusting small glowing components that Jun didn't recognize. Jun did as she asked. He had been working on machines all his life, but nothing like this. The alien technology was both strange and beautiful. Will this really reach other worlds? He asked. Mina nodded. The quantum relay will boost the signal. Many systems will hear it. Gil kept watch at the door. Hurry, he said. The security guards change shifts in 1 hour. That's our best chance to move this device to the roof. They worked faster. Jun's hands were steady despite his fear. This was their only chance to save Nera from being handed back to Dai. As they worked, Nera spoke quietly to Jun. Thank you for fighting for me. No one has ever done that before. It's what any decent person would do, Jun replied, focusing on connecting a tiny wire to a glowing blue crystal. No, Nera said. It is not. Most beings think only of themselves, of their safety. You are different. The transmitter was almost complete when they heard shouting from somewhere above them. They've discovered our plan, Jill said, his face worried. Someone must have talked. Ta made a sound like a low growl. We must move now, not later. They quickly packed the transmitter into a large bag. Jun carried it as they followed Ta through a series of narrow hallways. This way leads to the emergency stairs, Tai explained. From there, we can reach the roof. They climbed many flights of stairs, hearing voices below them. Someone was following. Finally, they reached the roof. The night air was cold as they stepped outside. The city lights spread out below them, and above, the stars shone brightly. Set it here, Nara said, pointing to the center of the roof. Jun placed the bag down, and they quickly unpacked the transmitter. It looked like a small satellite dish made of crystal and metal, with Nara's wrist device connected to it by thin wires. How long will it take? Jun asked. To prepare the message, only minutes, Nara said. But to broadcast to all nearby systems, perhaps 30 minutes. The door to the roof burst open. 5 security guards rushed out, followed by the stern woman from the committee. Stop this at once, she shouted. You are violating direct orders. Behind her came another figure, tall, silver-skinned, with burning orange eyes. Da, the hunter, Gil whispered. How did he get in? The stern woman turned to Da. As promised, you may take your fugitive. Day walked forward, his eyes fixed on Nara. In his hand was the neural disruptor Jun had seen before. Scientist Nara, Dad said, his voice deep and cold. The leaders await your return and your punishment. Jun stepped between them. You can't have her. Day looked at Jun with disgust. Human, this does not concern you. She's my friend. That makes it my concern. Day raised his weapon. Then you will die first. Everything happened very fast. Dai fired the neural disruptor. Jun saw the beam of red light coming toward him. Then Nara was there, pushing him aside. But she wasn't fast enough to save herself. The beam hit her in the chest. She fell to the ground, blue blood spreading across her silver skin. No, June shouted, dropping to his knees beside her. Day stepped closer. A waste. The leaders wanted her alive. June felt rage like he had never known. He lunged at Day, but the tall alien easily knocked him back. Start the broadcast, June called to Mina as he fell. Now. Mina pressed something on the transmitter. It began to hum, crystals glowing brighter. June crawled back to Nera. Her breathing was shallow, her purple eyes dimming. Stay with me, he begged. Please. The broadcast, she whispered. It must complete. One of the security guards tried to approach the transmitter, but Ta blocked his path. Nera reached weakly for her wrist device, still connected to the transmitter. One last thing to do, she said. The final proof. She pressed a sequence of buttons. Then she took June's hand and placed it on her chest, over her wound. This will hurt, she warned, but it will save me and prove what my research can do. A blue light moved from her wrist device, up her arm, and to the wound on her chest. It spread to June's hand, surrounding it with a glowing blue aura. Pain shot through June's body. It felt like fire in his veins. He tried to pull away, but Nera held his hand firmly. Together, she said, the bond we share makes this possible. The pain running through June's body slowly faded. A warm feeling replaced it, spreading from his hand to his whole body. The blue light surrounding Nera's wound grew brighter. Everyone on the rooftop stood still, watching in amazement. Even Da lowered his weapon, his orange eyes wide with surprise. Under June's hand, Nera's wound began to close. The blue blood stopped flowing. Color returned to her silver skin. Her purple eyes brightened. It's working, Mina whispered. The bond healing. I never thought it was possible outside a lab. The transmitter hummed louder. The crystal components glowed with intense light. Above them, the night sky seemed to ripple, as if the stars themselves were responding to the signal. What's happening? The stern woman asked, her cold manner replaced by wonder. Gil stepped forward. The broadcast is being received. All nearby systems can now see what Nera's research truly does. They can see healing, not weapons. Nera sat up, her wound completely gone. She kept hold of June's hand. The pain you felt, she said to him. It was my body borrowing your strength, your life force. Our bond made it possible. June felt tired but happy. You're alive. That's all that matters. Day stepped closer, his face angry. You have interfered with Lumen affairs, he said to June. The leaders will not tolerate this. Before anyone could respond, a new light appeared in the sky. It was brighter than any star, growing larger by the second. Another ship, Ta said, pointing. Unlike Da's dark, angular vessel, this new ship was smooth and white, with glowing blue lines along its surface. It hovered above the city, much larger than Da's ship. A beam of light shot down from the new ship, landing on the roof. When the light faded, 3 figures stood there. They were silver-skinned like Nora, but wore white robes with blue symbols. The Galactic Council. Mina gasped. They came themselves. The tallest of the 3 stepped forward. I am Sora, representative of the Council of 7 Systems. We received your broadcast. Day immediately bowed. Representative, this is an internal Lumen matter. These fugitives. Sora raised a hand, silencing him. This ceased to be an internal matter when the broadcast reached our systems. She looked at Nera. Your research has been viewed by leaders of 17 worlds. It cannot be hidden now. The leaders will not accept this, Dai warned. They already have, said another of the council members. The Lumen High Command has been contacted. They understand that attempting to reclaim this knowledge would be unwise. Sora turned to June. You are the human who helped make this possible. June nodded, still holding Nera's hand. I just helped a person who needed it. Sora studied him with interest. A simple act with complex consequences. She looked around at the others. This human's compassion has changed the balance of power in our sector. His actions have made healing technology available to many worlds, not just one. The stern woman from the committee stepped forward. What does this mean for Earth? We have protocols, treaties. Those will need to be reconsidered, Sora said. Earth has now played a significant role in galactic affairs. You can no longer remain isolated. Mina touched the transmitter, which was still broadcasting. The healing bond that Nera demonstrated with a human proves that this technology can work across species. The implications are enormous. Sora nodded. Indeed, that is why the council came so quickly. She looked at Nera and June. The bond you share is unexpected. Our scientists would like to study it, with your permission. What about Da? June asked. And the Lumen leaders. The third council member spoke. Dai will return to his people with a message. The technology is protected now by the council. Any attempt to weaponize it will be met with sanctions. Dai's orange eyes burned with anger, but he said nothing. Sora turned to the stern woman. Your government representatives will be contacted formally. Earth is now invited to send observers to the council. Your people have earned that right. Guild smiled, his old face full of joy. I have waited decades for this day. Earth, recognized by the galactic community. The night sky above them was filled with more lights now, ships from other worlds, responding to the broadcast. Earth's first night as a known player in galactic politics had begun. Nera squeezed June's hand. You did this, she said softly, by helping me that night in the forest. June looked up at the ships, then back at Nera. I had no idea one small act could lead to all this. The smallest acts of kindness often have the greatest impact, she replied. That is something my people have forgotten. Something you taught me. 6 months passed. The world had changed in ways few could have imagined. The existence of aliens was now public knowledge. Earth had representatives on the Galactic Council, and in a special facility built where June's workshop once stood, human and alien scientists worked together studying Nera's healing technology. June walked through the lab, nodding to researchers as he passed. Some were human. Others were clearly not silver-skinned lumen, black-eyed beings like Ta, and species June was still learning about. He stopped at a large window overlooking a garden where patients were recovering. People with injuries that once would have been permanent now walked, moved, and lived normal lives thanks to the new healing methods. Admiring your work? Hannah asked, joining him at the window. She wore the uniform of Earth's new Galactic Relations Department. It's everyone's work, June replied. I just helped get it started. Hannah smiled. Always modest. The council doesn't see it that way. They're still talking about the human who changed galactic politics with one act of kindness. How are the talks going? June asked. Better than expected. Even the Lumen leaders are cooperating now. They had to, after the broadcast made the technology public. Hannah looked at her brother with pride. You know, I never thought my quiet engineer brother would end up as a galactic diplomat. June laughed. I'm not a diplomat. I'm a technical advisor, who happens to be bonded to the most important scientist in 17 systems. As if summoned by their conversation, Nera entered the room. She looked different now. She wore Earth clothes, simple pants, and a blue shirt, but carried herself with new confidence. The devices at her temples and wrists had been upgraded, glowing with steady blue light. The council representatives have arrived, she said to Hannah. They're waiting in the meeting room. Hannah nodded and left. Nera came to stand beside June at the window. Busy day? He asked. Very. 3 new species want to join the healing program. Nara's purple eyes watched the patients in the garden. It's strange to think this all started in your little workshop. I was just fixing a broken device, Jun said. I had no idea what it would lead to. Nera took his hand. Since the healing bond on the rooftop 6 months ago, they had both changed. June could sometimes sense what Nera was feeling. His senses were sharper. The doctor said he might live longer than a normal human. And Nera had changed too. She understood humans better. She could solve problems in ways her people never considered. The bond had made them both more than they were before. "The council has offered me a position," Nera said suddenly. "Director of Healing Research on the Central Worlds. It's a great honor." June felt his heart sink, but he tried to hide it. "That's wonderful. When would you leave?" "They want me to start next month." Nera squeezed his hand. "And they offered you a position too. Lead engineer for the program." "Me? On another world?" "Yes, your way of thinking, your human perspective. They value it highly." She looked at him carefully. "But we would be on different planets. The bond would stretch, but hold." Jun was quiet for a moment. 6 months ago, he had been a lonely engineer in a small workshop. Now the galaxy was open to him. But at what cost? "Have you decided?" he asked. Nera smiled. "I told them no." "No, but it's such an opportunity. For both of us." "But I declined for both of us." She turned to face him fully. "I told the council that we work as a team or not at all." "You didn't have to do that," Jun said. "I would never hold you back." "It wasn't a sacrifice," Nera replied. "The bond works because we're together. The research works because we see things differently, but work as one." Her purple eyes were bright with certainty. "I told the council. He only wanted to help me when no one else would. Now I won't let him go." "And what did they say?" June asked, smiling now. "They created a new position. Joint Directors of Cross-Species Healing, based here on Earth." Nara moved closer to him. "It seems the council can learn from humans too. They understand now that some bonds shouldn't be broken." Outside the window, the sun was setting. New lights appeared in the sky, ships arriving and departing. Earth now a busy crossroads in the galaxy. A world forever changed because one man helped a stranger in need. June put his arm around Nera's shoulders. "When I found you in that crashed ship, I just wanted to help. I never expected all this." "The best things are often unexpected," Nera said, leaning against him. "Like finding a home among the stars, but realizing it's not a place. It's a person." Together, they watched the stars appear in the evening sky. Stars that were no longer distant and unknown, but new horizons waiting for them to explore together.